Hi, this is Mary James with Passive House Accelerator, and thanks for tuning in to this special bonus episode of the Passive House podcast, recorded at PhiusCon 23 in Houston, Texas. And a big thank you to Zola Windows for their support of the series. I'm sitting here with Trey Farmer of Forgecraft Architecture. Please, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your firm and the projects that you work on?
Yeah, we are an architect and principal. We're a 20-person firm, all architects and a couple interior designers. We do passive house, custom homes, a lot of affordable and supportive housing, and sort of emerging tech, so some like 3D printing, modular, that kind of thing. But we like to look at novel problems, like to build housing and work on work that's gonna make a difference in people's lives, and push on exciting things. And being here at the PhiusCon, is like really so much fun being sort of among the tribe, and so many great talks and seeing people who I've been looking up to for years and getting to meet them and learn from them. It's been incredible.
So you said 20-person firm, which seems like when I first talked to you a few years ago, your firm was a lot smaller than that.
Yeah, we were about 8 people going into COVID, and so we've grown quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 years. Which has been really fun. We've got this like incredible new group of people working with us who are all like excited and incredible designers and people. And so it's, just like culturally, it's been really fun having that kind of growth shift and new blood. So yeah, most of that work has been on the affordable housing, supportive housing, like tax credit side. So we're doing a lot of that work around Texas and a little bit around the country.
That's really exciting. So there's the affordable housing is being funded by, or partially funded by tax credits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those there's kind of a few different mechanisms of those, but they're funded through HUD and the state, and they're competitive tax credit projects. So they're like a very aggressive timeline and schedule, kind of the way they work. We've got these like really amazing kind of mission-driven clients. So like we're working with a women and children shelter to create permanent supportive housing for some of their people, and working with another group that we were actually one of the tour projects of the PhiusCon this year. Temenos Permanent Supportive Housing, which is a 95-unit supportive housing project for formerly unhoused people in Austin. So just like, amazing client teams and build teams. And, it's been really interesting, like taking our single family work doing passive house and being able to use Woofy passive and a lot of the same principles, and then track that up to the multifamily and see like, okay, what lessons can we learn either just from process or from like a building science standpoint? Being able to like really use the model to cost optimize those projects. And those owners typically own the buildings forever and are paying all the utilities on them. So, if we can prove out an ROI, like they're way above code on their assemblies and their systems, and they really care about the people going into them. So it's like from a kind of commercial multifamily standpoint, it's an ideal client base for us to push hard on some of these passive house principles.
And I assume they're new construction.
Yes, primarily. There's been a few, like during COVID, Austin and Houston both did kind of like purchased old, what do you call them, like long-term stay hotels that were not being used, and then transformed those into housing for the homeless. And so we've done a little bit of that work, but the permanent supportive housing, like tax credit work, is all new structures.
And are they setting Phius targets as their goal?
We have not been able to certify one yet. We're trying. The air sealing is the big trick. We actually have one of our client developers, their development and construction leads are both at the conference. So that's like so exciting that we were able to get them to tag along with us, and they're having a lot of fun. But we have been doing WUFI modeling. We've done a few feasibility studies on them with Phius. We did a custom targeting exercise on one, looking at, I think it was like the first large-scale multifamily to be modeled in a hot climate. So looking at like, okay, where should those targets be? And working with the Phius team on sort of making sure that the targets were aligned with cost optimizing the building. But yeah, lots of like fun lessons learned out of those. One just wrapped up construction in Austin, and we actually removed some of the continuous insulation on it and put that money into heat pump hot water heaters. And so that was a WUFI, passive house informed decision, even though the project isn't certifying, where we were able to get like really high performance and a great EUI on the building by doing those cost optimizing strategies, using the model and kind of pulling on different levers and seeing what made the most sense.
That's so exciting to hear, because the hot and humid climates are, I don't want to say a harder nut to crack, but there hasn't been as much work done in these climates.
Yeah, exactly. It's new. So we were super excited to have Phius choose to have the conference in Houston, right? We're in the hot, humid climate right now. So just like bringing that energy down here and bringing all the practitioners who have been doing this stuff for 10 or 15 years and built dozens and dozens of projects to help teach us and inspire people down here has been really great.
And I know that you talked a couple of different times at the conference, but you also just said that you were super excited by different ideas that you had heard about at the conference. Do you want to talk about like one idea that popped out at you at this conference?
Yeah. Well, so this morning there was the ASHRAE talk, which basically like creating a code base for passive house standard that could then be adopted, more easily by cities and states. And I think that is really exciting.
That's 227p,
yes.
ASHRAE 227p for those who don't know.
Yeah, the 227p, and Kimberly Llewellyn, who presented on it, is a good friend and an Austin-based. And so I think that is such like an important effort to kind of like take this from like a niche sort of thing to like a broader audience, and seeing like Beverly Craig's presentation about all the work that's being done in Massachusetts, incentivizing and now mandating passive house and multifamily. Like it's really cool to like, it's like all of a sudden the kind of like elbow of the curve is like here or in sight. And even just talking with the Phius certification team about their expectations of like, they're going to more than double the amount of multifamily projects certified next year to this year because of Massachusetts alone. So it's a fun time.
Okay, and you did say something about that you do 3D printing with your firm.
We've worked with a couple of 3D printing companies on projects. So we were the architects of record on a few 3D printed projects, and there's some active work in that too.
Is that for single family housing?
Yeah, so far, all of the 3D printed work is single family detached homes. It's still like a really nascent technology. So there's a number of companies in the space. There's Icon is a big one that's based in Austin. And then there's a couple in Houston and a couple else around the country. And as far as I know, all of them are still just printing single family homes, but I know that they're all working on being able to print like multiple stories and do party walls to do multifamily and that kind of thing. But they're all, I don't know, lots of different business models and sort of nascent kind of startup tech. Yeah.
And are any of them setting high performance passive targets?
We have talked with a couple of them about passive house. So a few different ones have approached us about passive houses. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able, maybe next time we can talk about the first 3D printed passive house. But at the moment, there has not been a 3D printed passive house to my knowledge.
Okay, well, one of the things that really struck me at the conference was, and I am not going to remember the exact number, but there was a really large number of power outages in Texas within the last 3 to 5 years. I don't remember exactly, but I was surprised at the frequency, and that must be an issue that comes up for you when you're marketing or talking to people about Passive House is resiliency. Am I leaping to assumptions here, or is that correct?
No, not at all. Yeah, we had the kind of snowmageddon, winter storm Uri, which is sort of that first COVID winter, and I think everyone thought it was a one-off, and that was in national news, right, about millions of people without power in Texas for quite a while. Our house was without power for about 3 days and performed really well, right? Like it was very much in line with the Rocky Mountain Institute studies in resiliency and sort of like livable hours. And so after 3 days in single digit weather, our house got down to about 50 degrees. And if you consider like our design temps are like 47 is the winter design temp. So our houses are not meant to be withstanding weather of that temp, that kind of like temperature delta. So we were, really pleased with it. And then, the year afterwards, we had an ice storm. So it's kind of, one was more of like grid failure and the other one was more like transmission failure. But we had a huge ice storm that just took down the grid in sort of like a million different places. So then it just was really hard to restore power because they were going to fix so many downed lines versus sort of the winter storm was like, they just didn't, like there was infrastructure and weatherization of the actual production facilities. A lot of the natural gas plants were not weatherized, and a lot of the piping to get the natural gas to the plants was not weatherized. A lot of the like wind production was not weatherized, and so it's a funny thing, right? It's like, I guess we're just not used to it down here. I don't know, government issues, but the turbines work fine in Norway in the winter, right? It's a lot colder there than it was here. But it has been a thing that has definitely come up in client conversations. We've seen a lot of people asking about resiliency, PV, battery backup, and then through Passive House, just like I think the messaging around putting the money into your envelope and your mechanicals first to have a more robust cooler. We use the Yeti cooler as our hometown hero and is a great analogy for Passive House. So living in a Yeti cooler when the power's out works a lot better than living in a old school kind of igloo cooler.
Oh, I didn't realize the Yeti cooler was an Austin product.
Yeah, they're based in Austin.
Oh, that's great. Well, Trey, thank you so much for coming and talking with us. I really appreciate you taking the time.